Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Over the Top Rope. As you saw, we got an intro now, trying to add a little
Hey!
production to the mix and trying to keep it a little less bland, I guess. My man, SilverFox, how are you this evening?
What's up, baby? How are you? I couldn't be better if there were two of me. So absolutely loving to be here.
like
So
my
hope you're doing
granddad
well.
says, like my granddad says, if I was any better, I'd be dangerous.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Let's go. Let's go.
The older people, they got their sayings they just love to hang on to, and they'll hang on to them forever.
Absolutely. Well, that's the way it works. You find three or four that you like, and you just never let go of them. So I've been saying the same thing for about 10 years now. So it's about time for me to add another one to the arsenal, just to keep things spicy. You know.
Yeah,
So definitely think that's the way you should do it. But it keeps things fun for you.
keep things fun. That's the name of the game, really. And we've got a couple of topics we're going to cover tonight. One, I wouldn't say has been beat to death, but I mean, I guess it kind of has. The other one, I think, like I was telling you, I think it's a great topic. The first one being, I don't necessarily want to make it very specific in women's matches in AEW, WWE. I think what's really kind of came to light here lately is the length of women's matches in a show, because I know there's been quite a few weeks here that women's matches in WWE across 5 hours of television hasn't equaled a full 2 minutes, and
Right.
it's been a pretty focal point, a pretty big focal point on Twitter, and I think it's something that we could address, give our thoughts and opinions on, as far as the length of women's matches and what maybe they could do to add to those matches. Personally, I think that if you got a 3 hour show with Raw, which people are already, you know, you're asking people to sit in a seat or sit in front of their TV for 3 hours. You've got to give them some good television. You've got to give them something that they're not going to flip the channel. They're not going to get bored. They're not going to, get up and take a shower in the middle of it and then come back and turn on like Monday Night Football or something. So women's matches not equaling 2 minutes over 5 hours of television, I think, is a problem. I think I'm very much actions speak louder than words, in the sense that you're giving your women a minute and a half to 2 minutes across 5 hours of television. That says right there that you maybe don't think that they're able to hold the viewer, that they can keep the viewer, retain the viewer, and that might be the point where you think you're going to lose your audience. And that's not saying that that's every single week in and out. It's just been a little bit more here lately. And then, as we talk about a lot, you don't have the dirt sheets helping the cause at all by reporting so and so was supposed to have a match on the pay per view, but it was scrapped so we could get something else on there. Showcase your women more
Yeah.
than a minute and a half to 2 minutes a week. I think that, from what I'm told on Twitter or X by several people week in and week out, that WWE World Wrestling Entertainment has the best women wrestlers in the world. So if this is the case, why are you giving Asuka, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bianca a minute and a half to 2 minutes a week? I think that says something subliminally about what you think about the women in your division. Now, am I wrong? Probably. Are they putting all of their marbles in one basket with the bloodline, trying to get LA Knight this push, trying to get Grayson Waller, kind of over with the crowd on the main roster? Yeah, you're fighting all of this, but at the same time, you have someone on your roster like Bianca Belair, who I've been very vocal about, I think could out wrestle the entire AEW's women division on her bad day. And I think that when you have someone like Bianca, Asuka, Charlotte, that you can give these girls, these women, more than 2 minutes a week. You can give them a good 8 minute match on SmackDown, give them a good 10 minute match on Raw. You're not going to lose your viewers. You may lose a few because unfortunately there are just some people who just do not like women's wrestling, and I've seen it on social media that there are people that don't think that women's wrestling has a place on TV or in independence. And to me, that's just mind blowing that there's actually people that think that way and that don't care for women's matches. Period. And I will say that WWE does a good job that even though their women are not in matches, they're still on your TV every week, backstage segment, promo, whatever. They do a really good job of still keeping them in your mind, a really good job of keeping them fresh in front of the screen. They do a good job of that, so I can't knock it completely. And I will say the one thing that AEW does really well is 90% of the time on Dynamite, if there's a women's match, it's the co-main event, and they will give them 8 to 10 minutes. Every now and then they'll get 4 to 5 if their one segment ran long. And I think that one thing that AEW does poorly, kind of what I was hitting on a second ago, is that AEW, if their wrestler's not booked, you're probably not going to see them. You're not going to get a backstage promo from them. You're not going to get a promo in the ring from them or anything like that. So I think you got the two sides of the coin there. But I 100% think that WWE could give their women 8 to 10 minutes on each program or both programs the same week. And I think that AEW does give their women the co-main event. We'll give them 8 to 10 minutes, but I think they could showcase the ones that aren't physically booked in a match a lot better. That's pretty much how I feel about it. I don't have any I think it's shitty that the women can't, most weeks can't get more than 2 minutes, but I mean, I commend them on at least getting them on our screen.
For sure. So like I have I agree with you on a lot of the points. I did some calculations roughly, and I was just trying to do some pretty quickly here. And I'll get into that in a second. Let me start off by saying I'm a massive fan of pro wrestling, men's wrestling, women's wrestling. I don't know the correct term. Little people wrestling. Like if it's in the ring, I'm all about it. So if it's good, I want to see it. If it's bad, I want to see it. I just love wrestling. At the end of the day, if you look at what's happening on the independent scene, and you look at what's happening on a show level that's not produced by that's not being backed by major cable television, you are seeing a resurgence and a elevation of women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So the want and the need is there, right? We absolutely are, as a wrestling whole, we are wanting women's wrestling, and we're proving it because we're coming out to these shows. We are cheering who we love. We are all about that. The one thing that we don't do, though, that I have noticed, is we are phenomenal as fans at yelling into the void and not backing up anything. NWA had an all-women's pay-per-view. I don't know how the buy rate was, but I know according to Twitter, it didn't do that great. The Mae Young Classic, or whatever it ended up being called, didn't do that great. The view rate on the women's tag tournament for AEW that was on YouTube for free didn't do that great. So we are really big into saying, well, give me this, I want that. But when they do, we as fans don't follow through. We as fans don't show what we want. And before anybody tries to hit me up and say that, well, Why didn't you buy it? Fool, I bought NWA Empower. I watched it. I tweeted about it. It was one of the few things I tweeted about that year. So don't come at me. I love it. But I think that's the big thing. I think people love to complain, and they want to complain and be in the in crowd. The in thing to do is to complain and say, we want women's wrestling. We should book women's wrestling better. And I agree, you should. But as a fan, what you need to do is when the women's match is on, you need to be in attendance, right? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't hold the sign at your favorite show and say, book women better. And then when the women's match hits, you can't use that to go get popcorn. You can't be both sides of that coin. You can, and things stay exactly the same way. So if you want change, you have to be that change. It's the way it works, unfortunately, right? We got to be about it. We can't just talk about it. So let's talk about some numbers real quick, though, okay? Because I'm all about the numbers, because people love to throw around that. I put this out months ago. People were talking about LA Knight, and they were saying, well, he needs to get more time, and this, that, and the other. People just, my God, if I could be the promoter and the booker that some of the fans are on Twitter, and I refuse to call it X. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But if I could be that booker and promoter that they are on Twitter, I could make more money. God dang. So let's just do some math. All right, so real quick.
Let's math it.
In 2018, NBC Universal paid $1.3 billion with a B. That's not million with an M. That's billion with a B for WWE Raw. It comes out per contract for about $250 million per year, right? Mm-hmm. So, handy dandy calculator. Thanks, Blues Clues. $250 million a year over 52 weeks a year comes out to $8 million a week. That comes out to, if you look at a minute breakdown, because we're going to have one episode of Raw a week, it's 180 minutes. But let's be really fair, because I'm a super fair guy. We're going to take out commercials. Commercials are going to be roughly 45 minutes out of a 3-hour show. So you have 135 minutes left of your 180 minutes. So you're looking at $35,000, $35.6 thousand. If a match, and let's just say for simple numbers, and it's all simple because I got a calculator. So, if that match is 5 minutes long, because people were up in arms that Chris Statlander and Emi Sakura didn't even go 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. That means that Tony Khan invested $178,000 in that match. I don't know about you, but there ain't a whole lot that I would invest $178,000 into.
No.
So if we want more women's wrestling, we want it on our screens, we want it in our shows. And I agree, guys. I'm all about it. I am 100% in favor and in agreement with you. There is a big roster. There is a lot of women. There's a lot of deserving talent. Yes, I 100% agree. But as a fan, if you want it, you have one of two options. Option one is to protest and say, well, I'm not going to watch until I get more. All right, that's worked well for the last 50 years. Now we're down to where it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and a 5-hour show, whatever it is. Or it's to actually put your money where your mouth is and support it. Tweet about it. Because if you think they're not looking at when engagement happens, they're looking at engagement to see what is engaging the fan, right? I want to see the demo of men 18 to 35, women 18 to 35. They're looking at those demos. And the reason those people aren't getting pushed that you want to see pushed, and by pushed, I mean just put on TV.
Yep.
I'm not talking about storyline-wise. I'm just those people getting put on television is because the numbers on a cable, the overlords, not Tony Khan, not Vince McMahon, the overlords, those overlords aren't letting it happen. So the easiest options, there's two. Option one is you get online and you tweet about it. You say how great you love it. You buy the merchandise when they come into your city. You go into the shop AEW and shop WWE and you buy every single Oscar shirt you can. There you go. There's option one. Option two is you keep complaining about it and you watch Impact, because I love AEW and I love to watch WWE, but the Knockouts division, in my opinion, is where it's at.
Agree. I
So
agree.
there you go. And that's I'd love to see more wrestling. I'd love to see more talented women wrestling, but it's all about the time on the card. That time isn't free, and that's something the fans, I don't think a lot of them have actually put pen to paper and thought about it.
No.
You're looking at $35,000 or $38,000, whatever that calculation was, per minute. Per minute! And that's not even talking about revenue lost from advertisers who are being put in that segment of the show.
Yep.
It's all done at a completely different level. Like, we're thinking about it from I'm sitting on my couch, I want to see this. I want. But we have to make it worth their while. You want to make it worth their while? Make the people you're cheering for the star. Buy their merch. Engage on social media. You know, I saw somebody the other day, they tagged Warner Brother Discovery, and they tagged AEW, and they tagged all these folks, and everybody was just blowing them up. I can't believe you do that. But that's the smartest thing you can do. You got to let somebody know that you want to see it. Because no matter what, it's all about what we do as fans. And if you hadn't seen Chris Statlander and Emi Sakura from this week, go out of your way to find it, because it's less than 5 minutes and it's one of the best freaking matches on the card. The timeline as a whole was talking about how those women went out and in under 5 minutes busted their butt to be the best match on the card in under 5 minutes. So I don't want to hear, well, they only got 5 minutes. I don't care. The crowd was freaking into it. And if you don't think the next week they come in there and they don't give them more time, because now they have shown the advertisers, because Twitter was blowing up, social media was blowing up. If you don't think you're going to get more time out of it, you don't understand how business works. I get fired up, man, because that's a good topic. It's a great topic. People love to complain. I want to see more women's wrestling. Do you? Do you? Well, tell me about when Kenzie Page beat Camille, who held the belt for over 800 days at the NWA. Well, I didn't see that. Did you watch the clips? No. Did you click the YouTube button to see it, just a review? No. Oh, okay. Cool. So you just like to hear the clickety clack when you type it on the keyboard. Got it. Fire it up, man.
Yeah, you're spot on and everything there. And I think the biggest thing you touched on was the numbers, breaking it down from, the year to the month to the week to the minute. And people just, I said about dirt sheets, but I mean, realistically, people just let other people do their thinking for them. And whatever they see as popular online that's, getting hammered that day and beat to death, that's what they're going to go with. And I think the perfect example of it was, or two good examples on one end of the spectrum is, you want more women's wrestling, you want something different with women, you want women pushed. Okay, well, Jade Cargill was TBS champion and went 60-1. I think she got to 60-0, and then just like a minute later, Chris Statlander come out and beat her. That's unheard of. That's unprecedented. And like you were saying, Camille was champion for 800 some days. That's a huge milestone. And they put it all right there in your lap. And all people did with Jade was complaining about it. All she's doing is squash matches. She's not there every week. She needs to be on Dynamite and Rampage defending that belt. Why is she just on Rampage? She needs to be on Dynamite too. And it's like, okay, they're giving you something different with a female wrestler. You're not happy about it. On the other side of that coin, there was a lot of people up in arms that Emi was not on the card for Wembley. So a week goes by, Dynamite happens, and what do you know? There's a graphic for the following week that Emi's going to be on Dynamite.
Magic.
And I can't imagine how that would happen, considering all the people that tweeted about it, all the people that brought it up, all the people that were making Emmys post viral about it. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You know, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, I would love to see Emi Sakura on there, but you only have so much time, and you're paying like that's dollar wise. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not even getting into that. That's absurd. But if you don't think that push for her isn't the reason why, like push from the fans,
Yeah,
isn't the reason why
exactly.
she was on that card, you had in mind. That's why we spoke up and said that we love the Queen and we want the Queen, and because we have shown the overlords of Warner Brother Discovery, we've shown the overlords of NBC Universal. That's why people get that sometimes. I mean, I could go on for a long time about that. Yeah, Jade was undefeated. I think for over 500 days. It was 60
Yep.
and 0, and the only thing, and Twitter did nothing. Like a very small pocket was excited about it. The rest of it, they wanted to complain and whine and yell about it. And you think that they're going to continue to give money to have the fans complain about it? No. You got to be excited about it. You got to show that you actually are. Don't talk about it. Be about it.
Well, yeah, you're 100% right there. Be the change you want to see in the world.
It's crazy how it works
Speaking
out the way.
speaking of us fans, just before we went live, you had brought to my attention a situation that I actually didn't know was that what went down, and it brings up a really good point. You brought up a really good point. How does the casual fan, the 400-pound guy in sweatpants with his butt crack hanging out, smells like he's been out in a desert for a year sweating, play a role in the event and the match? I think it's a fantastic topic because we've all been to shows, whether it's AEW Dynamite with 6,000 people, or SmackDown with 10,000 people, or an indie show with 30 people there. We've all been to a show, front row, middle row, general admission, up in the nosebleeds. And I think that's a really good point that you brought up, how the fan affects and kind of plays into the show.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I don't want to highlight anybody specifically, just because of recent events. But there's been some scuttlebutt, we'll say, which is one of my
Yep.
favorite words. There's been some scuttlebutt online about if you're at a show, what is show? Let's call it show etiquette. Now, I'm of the belief, personally, if you go to the event, you pay for your ticket, you go into that door. If you want to cuss, if you want to sleep, if you want to jump, if you want to dance, if you want to eat popcorn, if you want to go to the bathroom, if you want to do anything within the legal ramifications or legal boundaries of that
Mm-hmm.
state in public, you are legally allowed to do it. If you want to completely ignore the wrestling that's happening in front of you that you paid your money for, it's your money. You do what you want to do with it. I don't care. It don't affect me. I don't have to pay your bills. I don't understand the anger. A couple years ago, WWE went through and I guess this was a lot longer than a couple years ago. This was probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago. They went through a little spurt where fans were, let's call it, hijacking the show, and they had a beach ball, and beach balls were everywhere. And it went on for a couple weeks where wrestlers were giving it their all. And I mean, and as talent, as athletes, it's got to be demeaning for sure that you're giving it your all, and people are out in the crowd beach balling around. And Claudio Castelli went out to the crowd, grabbed the beach ball, and broke it apart, kicked it, deflated it, and the crowd went berserk. They all cheered because it was Claudio 1, beach ball 0.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something I always, from an athlete's perspective, I can understand why you're giving it your all. You're fighting to the death almost, and the people who paid to watch it aren't watching it. But from a fan perspective, I paid. My money's been put in. I've bought tons of stuff in my life that when I got home, it wasn't what I thought it was. And I tried to return it, and I was told I couldn't return it. So then I had purchased what I had purchased, and it
Yeah.
was what I purchased. So I could either make the best of it, or I could go online and complain about it. And I made the best of it. It's what it is. So I just find it interesting, and I was curious of your point of view when it came to that. Like, I mean, as far as being a fan, are you against that? Are you for that? And if anybody, I also want to point out, for whoever watches this, because the internet is forever, I am absolutely against bullying. Everybody that decided to bully that fan deserves to walk around in wet socks for the rest of their days. Let's just say it's not my favorite thing. I am 100% against bullies. I've already said my piece on it.
Yep.
But from a fan perspective, I mean, and I will say from a watching it from my couch perspective, it didn't bother me. I wasn't taken out of the moment. Wrestling and entertainment as a whole is all about suspension of belief. And that did not take me out of my suspension of belief. And if it did take anybody else out, I have a feeling it's because you were looking to stir the pot. And that's it. Because that is the most intoxicating thing, is to think that you actually can stir the pot on something of the sort. Because again, like I mentioned in our previous segment, you vote with what you're watching.
Yeah.
You have a voice with your social media engagement. And if you want to use your voice in that way to support who you want to support, and you paid money to be there, I got your back, Jack. I think that is absolutely 100% okay. As far as beach balls and that kind of stuff, I don't know. But as far as the recent controversy, I don't know. What do you think?
So I've got kind of two parts to this one, maybe kind of three. And the first part is probably not going to be well liked. It's probably not going to be well received with most people. But in majority of the independent wrestlers I've interviewed, whether they were just starting out or they had been doing it for 20 years, we all pretty much came to a common theme on one topic, and that was, as a wrestler, especially independents, you are a business. You are trying to sell yourself. You're trying to sell yourself to the crowd to get them to go to your merch table, spend their money, buy an 8x10, buy a shirt, pay for a picture, whatever. You are also selling yourself to the promoter to bring you back, to book you once again, to maybe bring you in for more than just a couple of shows, to bring you in for a story, maybe a championship run. You, as an independent wrestler, you are a business and you're trying to sell yourself. If you're having a match, whether in your head you think it's going extremely well or extremely poorly, that's one thing. But if you're a wrestler and you're having a match and you hit the ropes and you kind of look and there's three people on their phone while your match is going on, that's a you problem. What are you doing that you're not selling yourself to this crowd? You're not getting this crowd to invest in you. What could you be doing differently to sell yourself? You are a business. And so if someone's going to the bathroom, talking to the person beside of them, or on their phone during your match, that's very much a you problem. And you better climb under the ring and break out a bag of tacks to get them back into what you're doing. Because if you got, let's say, 6 minutes on a card and somebody's on their phone for 3 minutes of your match, they might not have seen the one move in your move set that tells who you are and what you do. Now, granted, you could do it in most do it in more than a couple of moves, but if you nail a shooting star press extremely well and you make it look good, you make it look a little bit different, and everything else you've done leading up to that hasn't caught the crowd. And well, Susie's on her phone and you hit that shooting star press and Susie doesn't see it, that's a you problem. That's not the crowd's problem. If the crowd goes to a movie and they turn their brightness all the way down on their phone and 30 minutes into the movie they're on their phone, you're not going to go yell at the projection man, are you? You're not going to yell at the concession stand worker, are you? No, you're going to yell at Leonardo DiCaprio for not freaking entertaining you when you paid $47 for the ticket, popcorn, and drinks. So that's one part. Second part was I was actually at an independent show here. It was at a bar and it was out back, it was outside. And I think it may have been last year about this time. It wasn't too hot outside and it felt really nice outside. And you got people from the bar who didn't care about the wrestling, was just out there drinking and just kind of taking it in. Just because if I go somewhere and drink at a bar and there's wrestling and I didn't know there was wrestling going to be there, I'll be like, oh shit, let me check this out real quick. Kind of like being at a bar and then like, a live band starts playing. You're like, oh shit, let's see what this is about. So we're all sitting outside and I think me and Morgan were sitting front row and they had a spot behind us. It's like a patio with like some like almost like patio furniture on it or whatever. And so a match happens, and one of the guys on the card, who's not even was not even the best wrestler, is not even close to the best wrestler. He's a decent heel. I'll give him all that, but let's call a spade a spade. He doesn't do good promos. He's decent in the ring. He finished his match, ended in a disqualification on his side. Someone interfered for him, and so the other person won. He comes out of the ring. He's talking a little, smack to the people in the front row. And then just out of nowhere, points like to the side of my head behind me. It was like, just yells. Not even like, yelled like a fire drill was going down. Yells, you, old geezer, put the book down and pay attention. You're at a wrestling show. And so I turn around and look behind me, and there's this older gentleman, maybe 50s or 60s. His wife's sitting beside him, and he's got a book. And I felt so bad for that guy. Like, I wanted to go up and give him a hug and just tell him, like, yo, like, this little pipsqueak ain't shit. Like, don't listen to him. Read your book, drink your beer, listen to your iPod, read your Kindle, whatever you're doing, man. Don't listen to this guy. He's like, in the moment he was thinking he was a little bit bigger than he was. But you could just see that guy, he just like closed his book and just kind of sat back and slumped down. And I was like, if you wanted this guy to come back and see you and buy a $10 promo, a $20 shirt, he's not into you anymore. He doesn't care about you anymore. You lost him forever. And he may not even come back to watch that promotion. So you really screwed yourself when you did that, and you screwed the people in the back because he got up and left after about 10 minutes. What if he would have been like, oh shit, so-and-so that went on first was really good. Let me talk to him afterwards. He left. So you screwed yourself and you screwed some other people. And I felt so bad for the guy, and I just don't understand, as someone who is putting themselves out there and selling themselves as a business, why you would do that, why you would point it out. Go in the back, tell your friends, like, God damn, did y'all see that motherfucker reading a book? Like, why even come to the show? But don't yell at him in front of 35 people and scold him when he's an adult. He paid his money, and you're here to wrestle. You're not here to play security. You're not here to be engagement police and like, oh, you look down, you better like, oh, eyes up here, buddy, rings over there. Like, no, that's not you. And to round it out was a third point. I'll make this one kind of quick. One of my friends, he's a wrestler. He's in the independent scene. He's actually starting to really, gain some popularity, which he was before. But he told me he's a heel when he's working a face. He said, man, as soon as the crowd gets behind the face, that's when you just gotta murder them. And so I think that part of being a fan at the show and your favorite face right in front of you, and they've got the rope pulled up to their throat, and you're cheering them on, and the more you cheer them on, the more the heel is choking them and just really digging it in. And I think that plays into it a lot as well as a fan, you can kind of dictate how the match goes and kind of determine when a wrestler hits a move or when they, hit that major move that they're looking for. So that just kind of rounds it out in that little fine point of if the crowd's really into it, then the heel's going to do what they can to kill the crowd and just kind of take them out of it, not get them to not care, take them out of it. Somebody will take that literally. Well, you're talking about fans engaging. Why would you want to take them out of it? Just kind of deflate them a little bit. That's pretty. I mean, I can't put it any differently than that.
Nah, you're good. Yeah, man. Like the old saying is, you buy the ticket, you take the ride, right? And if you buy the ticket and you take the ride, nobody's stopping you from closing your eyes. That's the way I look at it. Wrestling started in the carnivals, and to this day, if you walk into State Fair, you walk into a carnival, you do any of that, you pay your ticket to get in. They don't care if they want you to buy cotton candy. They want you to, buy tickets to take the rides, but you pay your entrance fee. They don't care what you do. And I mean, I don't know, man. I might just be old and crotchety, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
No,
If you
I
buy a
don't think the
ticket,
old
flip them
crotchety.
off, flip off the wrestlers, go to sleep, do whatever you want to do. You paid the money to be there. I didn't. So what? Best thing in the world I heard recently was a wrestler said, "You guys are worried about what somebody else thinks. They're not even there. They didn't even pay a ticket to see you." Like dang.
That's the internet world and the internet wrestling community in a nutshell, right there, too.
Ain't it? But
Let's
yeah.
do it, man. Let's get in these closing marks, man. I live for these segments. I do, man. What you got for us this week?
Buddy, it's been a good week. Outside of the toxicity of the internet wrestling fandom, deciding that the smart thing to do was to send death threats to somebody because they were looking at their phone like they're a bunch of 3-year-olds. Like there's somebody that needs to have some actual parental guidance watching them while they're on there. I don't know if they don't just took off the parental lock off your computer. What's wrong with you? Bunch of children acting like y'all ain't got no home raising, acting like you just out by yourself, raised by wolves. Most ridiculous thing I've ever heard about in my life. For the fact, I'll tell you, it's been a calm week, but let's hit the nail on the head, shall we?
We shall.
2 different instances. The fact that a world-class athlete, 2 different occasions this week, has to come in and tell the fan base, y'all chill the F out. Y'all are getting a little much for me, is a problem. If you really think, let me be just complete, if you really think that you would be a friend of your favorite wrestler the way you're acting, and you're acting out in left field, you done lost your mind. 2 different times this week. Professional wrestlers have to get on your fans. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. You're a grown person and you don't know how to act? You don't know how to act when you go out in public? How do you exist? How do you put your pants on in the morning? Crazy.
With help, probably.
It's got to have some help. Oh my God! Well, you see but the color of Kenny Omega's water bottle was dark, and look what shirt I'm wearing, right? I ain't gonna hide it. But come on, you bunch of idiots! No, bro, y'all gotta chill out. Like, there's a line between being a fan and being passionate, and you please be passionate, cheer, flip them off, do whatever you want to do. I'm here for it. But when you cross that line into harassment, there's an issue, right? And if you don't mentally understand where that line is, you might want to reevaluate what you have going on in your life before you get back online without having any parental guidance. Maybe you need to start taking your electronics and put them in that lockbox for a couple hours a day. Go touch some grass, folks.
Just go outside. 10 minutes. Just go outside 10 minutes. Let it change your life.
It's vitamin D. That sunshine does some amazing things. But it's
Releases
been a
those
good week.
endorphins. Yep.
It's been a good week. I don't have a lot to be mad about.
I, I'm with you, and I'm kind of in the same boat. My rant is, I guess maybe a personal one, more of a me problem, but I am an absolute Cody Rhodes mark, American Nightmare mark. I've got like I've got like a whole like poster board of his filled with like different pictures, some signed pictures. I've got like 200 trading cards of his. I've got like 13 or 14 figures back there. But my God, man, since his loss to Roman at Mania, his feud with Brock Lesnar did nothing for me, which it was needed. I completely understand that for his story, for him to move on to possibly challenging Roman again. Doesn't make sense for him to just automatically beat Roman without, taking out Brock Lesnar first and, getting that notch under his belt, considering Brock never beat Roman clean, whatever you want to call it. So I get it for that point, but with Brock being part time, there was so much of Cody just talking to himself. Cody is phenomenal on the mic. I don't think there's anyone on his level as far as how he articulates himself, the verbiage that he uses, and the kind of emotion that he pulls from people, whether he talks every single week or he just has one promo. MJF is close, but you've got that kind of heelish persona versus the face, so I don't really want to compare him too much. But man, that Brock feud with Brock, it just seemed like it just could never end. I get it needed to happen. And now it's just like there's no direction with Cody. And he's coming out and he's doing these promos, talking to himself. He was on the Grayson Waller effect. And I don't know. I feel so bad because I'm such a Cody Rhodes fan that I'm just like, man, it's like, I don't know that I can watch him talk to himself week in and week out. And he does have dark matches post TV time. He does. The crowd gets to see him. They get to, you know, do his woe entrance, which is really good. I think that's a good thing to do. But it's just like please give me some direction with Cody. Give me something to kind of, get behind him on again. And the theory is now that Jay went to Raw, so now Raw has to trade someone to SmackDown. So the theory is that person's going to be Cody, going to restart his feud with Roman for Mania 40, and that's just all that is the internet wrestling community grasping at straws and
That's six
poking and
months. I mean, that'd
hoping.
be good though. It's that if that's
Yeah,
the case, that's a 6 month build. That's stout, like for sure.
I'm all for it, and I'm not even saying it has to. He has to go into a world championship feud directly or anything like that. But just give me like even like if they're not gonna draft him to SmackDown, and that's not exactly the move right now, then give me something with my favorite wrestler to kind of get me to be like, I hope he, I hope him and I hope he beats Gargano or just something. I'm just begging for something at this point because since Mania of this year in April, it's just been man, it's been tough to sit through. And I had admittedly not watched Raw, but like four times maybe since Mania, just because I see the highlights of the week before. I knew Brock Lesnar was part time. He's not going to be there in Cody's face every week. And what little bit of stuff they did with Brock and Cody on like Raw, with Brock showing up and jumping him and stuff like that, I thought it was good, but it was just give me something, please. That's all I can say. Adam Pierce, Triple H, please, whatever.
Well, good news is a roller coaster. It comes down, so that the only reason it comes down is so you can go back up. So it's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming, Bubba. You just buckle in. Come up, buckle in. I remember the first time I found out that like show you my age to the wrestling world when we had VHSs that were 2 or 3 tapes long.
Mhm.
I was like, there's no way. There's no way. Why would you ever watch something that long? And before I knew it, I was hooked, and I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta put. Where's the other tape? I've gone through the first tape. It was so good." Just that's gotta love that slow burn, baby. You gotta love that slow burn.
Yeah, and that's what I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on, because I think it was yesterday or the day before that supposedly, I'm not going to say this is a direct quote, but supposedly Cena himself said that he considers Cody Rhodes the GOAT, which is a massive endorsement. And I think they're gonna, do right by Cody, and I think Cody has to go through his hard times, baby. And so I'm here for it. Not necessarily happy about it, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, there you go. Well, I think on that Dusty Rhodes impression, let's head out and get ready for some wrestling tonight. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. Let's do it. I've got our handles on social media scrolling down here. If you check out this episode, tell us what you like, what you didn't like. Don't DM us telling us that we're wrong, because we're not. You're allowed to have your opinions that are wrong, but we're not. That's
I'll
going to
just
do it.
block you. I'll just block you. Feel free to DM me, but you're only going to DM me once. I'm just going to block you.
Can I do this?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I appreciate everyone who tuned in. That's going to do it for this episode, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Over the Top Rope.
See ya.